Hello class, welcome back. This is going to be another kind of introduction video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the 3 different text editors that I mentioned in the syllabus, but you are welcome to use other text editors. Again, don't use something like Dreamweaver. If you want to use something that's not listed on the syllabus, I would like for you to contact me first and just double check with me that it's going to be okay. But for the most part, it should be fine. And before I really start, I should just warn you, I mean, it's probably pretty obvious right now, but I am on a Mac computer. In the previous videos I recorded on Windows computers, so I just wanted to be able to give you a bit of a variety. But if you're looking for a video that has Windows, at least while you're kind of getting used to everything, you could go and watch one of my older videos on the same topic. But even though Mac computers have a slightly different kind of look to the menus, it ultimately is all very similar. So you should be able to get the hang of everything pretty quickly. So if you go to our Canvas information, under the Getting Started section, there is a section for text editors, and I've got Visual Studio Code, Brackets, and Sublime listed here. We'll just kind of start by taking a look at these. And so if you go to the Visual Studio Code page, it will give you a prompt to download, and it can tell that I'm on a Mac, and so it's prompting me to download on a Mac. If you were on a Windows computer or Linux, it's going to prompt you to download these. And so you should be able to just go ahead and download it, install it, save it to wherever you want to have it saved, and then you'll be able to open it up. You do want to make sure that you are downloading Visual Studio Code. There's another software that's just called Visual Studio. Technically, you could use that, but this really just gets straight to the point of what we need. There's going to be a lot of content in Visual Studio Code that we're not even going to use. A lot of really great plugins and extensions that you can use if you really wanted to. But we're just going to be using bare bones Visual Studio Code just because I want everything to be the same for everyone, whether you were coming onto campus and you aren't able to download any extensions and install them, or if you're working on a computer at home where you can. I want to keep everything as much the same as possible. So if you want to use the same thing as me, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. So you'd want to go and download that. Alternatively, you can also use Brackets. Brackets is also a very popular text editor. And one of the benefits of working with Brackets is the fact that there's this nice little button that you can press where if you click on it and you have Chrome downloaded on your computer, it'll do live updates where whatever changes you put in your code, it'll save, and then it'll make those changes happen in the browser preview that it has immediately. It's a small little convenience. It's not so much that I feel like it's worth using over the other ones, but there's a lot of people who really like it, and we'll take a bit of a look at that. Sublime is what I used to use before I switched over to Visual Studio Code. And you can go and you can download this as well. One of the things that I think I mentioned in the syllabus video is I get tired of the fact that it constantly prompts you to upgrade to the paid version. So you can use it for free. It's just going to kind of annoy you by asking you if you want to upgrade it. And it's a very small thing. And you're going to notice they all look very similar to each other. All right, so I opened up Visual Studio Code and it's telling me that there's this release note, so you can go ahead and close out of that if you get something kind of similar to that. And again, you're going to notice that it might look a little bit different for you just based off of the fact that I'm on a Mac computer, but ultimately it should be really the same sort of things. And whenever I go through software, I kind of like to go in a similar order each time. Usually starting with help, because this is where you can find a lot of helpful information, whether it's needing to upgrade to a newer version. Like here we've got information on release notes, There's getting started information. You can view the license information if you want. So this is where you can kind of find things if you need to search for something. Otherwise, there's not really a whole lot of information we're really going to need. Here we've got window information if we want to zoom. Terminal information, we really shouldn't need this. Run, we shouldn't need anything here. Same thing with go. View can be kind of helpful. We've got some information on the appearance. So if you want to make something full screen, if you want to zoom in and out, you'll notice here I've got very specific commands for zooming in and out, but this should look different if you're on a Windows computer. Usually it's, I'm blanking because I've got a Mac keyboard in front of me. It should be Control plus and minus to zoom in. And then Control 0 if you want to go back to the default size. So when I teach in the classroom, I often am zooming in and out to make it easier for everyone to see on the screen. So I find that really helpful. There's editor layout information. And one of the things I really like about this software, if you look in the top right corner, we've got these options for kind of having things as a split view. So you could have multiple files. This isn't the only software to do this. You can do this with other software too. But I do find it pretty handy. All right, so view, we've got explore, search, different extensions. We'll kind of look at those a little bit because we got some icons here where we have that same stuff. Selection, if you want to copy line information, move lines up or down, kind of move where your cursor is. There's different shortcuts for all of that. Edit, kind of your typical undo, redo, cut, copy, paste. What I find really helpful is we've got toggle line comments. So we'll talk in a future video about what exactly a comment is and how to use it. But if you're having a hard time remembering the proper syntax for being able to write a comment, these end up being really helpful. Oh, there's another one that's in here that's really helpful. It's grayed out right now, but that's word wrap. So a lot of these text editors, as you're writing, it will just kind of have a continual line going across horizontally. And at a certain point, it's hard for you to see everything. And you'll want to kind of go back and forth between being able to have your code have word wrap, so it continues on to the next line so you can actually see all of your content. And then sometimes you want it to not have word wrap, so that way you can kind of more easily scan through your tags. So it's nice to be able to know that shortcut to go back and forth. And I think on Windows it should be Alt. I think it should be Alt-Z, I want to say, because it says Z here. It might be A. Anyways, double check that. That's under View. And then we've got our edit options, file options. So create a new file, open a file, open recent, save as, all of your kind of typical options. And then because I'm on a Mac computer, it's splitting these up a little bit. We've got preferences. So you should be able to find all of this. Probably usually it's under the file section, but we've got preferences. So if you want to go and change the settings, here we have color theme. So this could be really helpful, especially if you're like, I prefer the default where we've got the dark colors with the lighter color. I think that's a little easier to see, but if you prefer something else, you could go in and you could switch to a lighter color. So like here's the default. Let me go back to the color theme. You can also look for some that might be better. Like let's say you might be like color blind or something, and you're looking for something that has a better contrast where you can kind of pick out the colors a little bit easier. You could look for something like that. So for me, at least I was under preferences, and then color theme is what you're really looking for there. And then this kind of popped up when I was clicking on these icons in the top right. But if we go over here to the left, we've got this Explorer section. So we can actually open folders and bring folders in this way. And this is kind of a nice way to sort of browse through content. I don't really have anything set up right now, so it's not really going to be very helpful, but you could choose your files here. Kind of similar to the way that you could do file open folder, only here you can actually kind of see the organizational structure of everything. And then here we've got search. So you could search for something and it says you have not opened or specified a folder. So I can't really do a whole lot with the search. Here we've got source control. In order to use Git features, you can open a folder containing a Git repository or clone from a URL. This is going beyond what we're going to be doing in this class, but it's good to know that that exists. Run and debug, open a file which can be debugged or run. To customize, run and debug, open a folder and create a launch JSON file. That's also not something that we're going to take advantage of in this class, but it's good to know that it exists. And then here we've got different extensions. Now, if you're working on your own personal computer, there's all sorts of extensions that you might find helpful. And you'll notice people don't use this just for HTML and CSS. They use it for all sorts of programming languages. So we've got Python in here, C++, we've got just all sorts of different extensions that people might find useful. You could go and try to look up some. I've had some students where they liked certain. Let's see if there's anything for like HTML. So we've got HTML snippets, HTML, CSS support. So you might find some in here that you might find useful, but I try to keep things as simple as possible just because I want my videos to be as equally accessible to people who might be working on the computers at school where they have no control over being able to do any of that. All right, and then down here, we've got accounts. You shouldn't need to sign into an account or anything. We've got settings. So here I've got information, settings, extensions, color themes. It's kind of just a quicker way to find different information. And let's go to create a new file. And you'll see by default, I've got a file that's called untitled, and then it's just putting a 1 after that. And then in the bottom right, you'll notice by default, every single file is going to be a plain text file. That's going to be one of our first issues, is we want to make sure that we save our files as the right type of file, because if you don't, it's going to save as a TXT file, if you've ever seen one of those before. And you can actually go and you can look at all the different types of files that are supported. And this will kind of give you a clue as to if it's the right type of file or not when you go to open it. And it's going to be able to see these, but to actually control that it's saving as the right thing, we're going to have to make sure that we go and save it properly. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. And right now it's just saving to the desktop. That's going to be fine. When you're organizing your files, you want to make sure that you put things into a folder. It's really going to be up to you how you want to organize things and have everything sort of make sense. So what I would recommend, and what I'm going to do for these videos, is I would recommend organizing things by weeks. So having like a week 1 folder, and then from there you could put your file, or you could have a folder for your assignment. When you have your assignments, I'm going to ask for you to put them in a folder. You want to make sure everything is lowercase and you don't have any spaces, any special characters. So if you've got some notes, I'm going to put them in a folder called like week 01. When you are naming files, like let's say, in our case, we're going to have 8 weeks. And so technically I could go ahead and I could remove the 0. When I'm teaching a full semester class, we have 16 weeks. So I like to make sure that I have a placeholder for the first digit, and then I've got the second one. So that way when I put it in a greater folder and we get up to having week 15, 14, etc., that they all go in order, that it doesn't kind of restart over again. Same thing with assignments. We'll have assignments going up to 12. So I'm putting this placeholder in 01 for that. All right, so if we go back to here and we go to Save As, I can then choose one of these files. So I'll just choose week 1. And then, so I am on a Mac. So this will look a little bit different for you if you are on a Windows computer. I'm going to see if I can link to one of my older videos just to show you a little bit of variety in this. Something else that we want to do real quick. All right, so we're going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to choose Desktop, my week 1 folder. And I'm just going to put this and call this Demo. And here I can choose what sort of format, what file extension I want. So I'm going to choose HTML. And once we've done that, you'll see that it actually adds HTML on the end. You want to be really careful in how you're doing this, because I've had it where students have typed it in and they also chose the format as HTML and it just created demo.html.html. So whether you type it in yourself or you choose the format, you just want to make sure that it's saving as the right type. Something else I've seen is where it was choosing the format as the default, which is a TXT file, but students didn't know that, and so it was saving it as demo.html.txt. So just be a little bit careful with that. I'm going to hit save, and then now we can see it says demo.html, and it's actually giving me this information of where it's located. So it's saying under the user information for WBandle, on the desktop in the folder week 01, there's a file now called demo.html. If I look in the bottom right, it shows that it's an HTML file. If I go to my Finder and I go to week 1, I can see this demo.html file, and it says it was created today and all this other information about it. You also want to make sure that whether you are on a Mac or a PC, that you have your file extension type turned on so you can see what type of file it is. So for example, here I can see demo.html. If you don't have that turned on, it would just say the name of the file, demo, and it wouldn't bother giving you any other information. So you want to make sure that you turn on the ability to view your file extension type. If you need help with that, send me an email and let me know, and I can go over how to do that with you. All right, so I'm going to just fill in a little bit of kind of a basic template of what you would need to have, just so you have a file and you have something to kind of look at. You don't have to worry about doing this yourself or understanding what exactly you're looking at. All right, so this is kind of our basic structure that we're going to start with. So we're going to have our doc type at the top saying which version of HTML, and that'll make a little bit more sense when we start talking more about what exactly HTML is. But we're saying what version we're using. I am putting a comment here. This is just giving a little bit of background information saying I'm the one that created it. This is the day that it was created. It's notes for us or anyone we might share the file with. It's not necessarily something that is going to be visible on the page. And then we have our actual HTML, which is in, these are called tags. We've got an opening tag and we've got an end tag. And then here we have an attribute. An attribute lets you specify specific information that you want a tag to have. And so in this case, or I should say an element to have. And so in this particular case, I'm saying for the HTML element, I want the language to be set to English. And then we've got a head tag and a body tag. We'll talk a little bit more in the future about what those mean. But head information is information that gets passed to the browser kind of behind the scenes. So we're saying, I want the title to be the name of the website. I want the meta character set to be set to UTF-8. That's the standard default. And then I'm going to create, in the body section is everything that's visible on the actual page. And here I have a paragraph that says, hello world, because that's the first thing that you always type whenever you are working in a new programming language. So we've got that there. So I'm going to save that, and you'll notice I do a lot of key commands by default. I don't necessarily go up all the time, but if you don't know these yet, you can go to File and then Save, and if you're on a Mac, you'll see that it's Command S, and then it should be Control S. So I can minimize that now. Now to actually open this in our browser, we'll want to go to wherever it's saved, and then you can double click, it'll open in your default browser. You can right click on it and go to open with, and then I have my different options for how I want to open it. Do I want to open it in Safari, which is my default? Do I want to use Firefox, Chrome, Edge? So I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and you'll notice that in the URL, it has the exact location of where it's saved onto my personal computer. So it's saying users, wvandal, desktop, week 01 demo, and then it has that HTML as the file type. And we have hello world here. And then this name of website, that was in the title section. So if whatever you want to be on the actual tab, that's going to go under the title. And we'll talk about that more in the future in an actual template video. I just want to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect. All right, so now that I have this saved, I can actually go and open my other software. All right, so I've got Sublime Text, and it's telling me there's a new version. I'm not going to worry about that for now, but I can go to File, Open. And so here we'll be able to see this file. Now there's one other thing I didn't really talk about yet in here, which is that when you have multiple files open, they will create different tabs going across. You can click on this icon on the right and it splits the view. This is really handy when you're working with, let's say, your HTML on one side, your CSS on the other, or you could have the previous version, like your assignment 1 and then assignment 4 on the other side. So it can be really handy. Now this is going to work in a similar way where you're going to have the different tabs going across the top. You'll notice that it color codes everything, same thing as what Visual Studio Code does. The default I have here is a little bit more colorful, but we've got our tags are in this kind of magenta color, and then I've got these attributes are sort of this lime green. And then the values that we're setting these attributes to are this yellow color. So every one is going to have a theme. You'll notice there's going to be different line numbers going down, so you kind of keep track of things a little bit better. All right, so for the menu, it's going to be really similar. Here we've got some information about like purchasing the license, window, we've got options, project, open project, switch project, add folder, tools, we've got developer information. Most of these things you're not really going to need. Here we can go to jump to a symbol, we can do jump back, jump forward, view information. We've got our word wrap, ruler, spell check, find, selection information, edit. Here we've got comments, toggle comment, toggle block comment. We've got some options for working with line and wrap and everything. For the most part, we're going to keep things really simple. Open, save, and then we've got options like preferences, and we've got our color schemes as well. So there's going to be kind of fewer options here with the color schemes. I try to go with ones that are darker and they've got kind of lighter colors because I think it's a little easier when you're looking at it for a long time. Now this doesn't have those options of the different extensions and everything on the side. It's a little bit more bare minimum, which I actually prefer because I think it helps keep you from getting overwhelmed in a lot of things. You will notice that you can turn on and off if it will auto-complete things for you. So for example, in the other one, when I was typing in, you might have noticed that it was helping fill in things. Like here it's noticing, okay, you're creating an element. Here are all of the elements that start with P. But I have it so it's not creating the end tag right away, but what it is doing is once I start writing the end tag, it knows that I need to finish this before I can move on to the next one. So it kind of finishes it for me. So that might be something that you may or may not want to turn on. I think it's good to get used to not using it, but also it can help you learn as well. So I'm gonna kind of leave that up to you, what you might want to do. The last one I want to look at is brackets. And you'll notice that brackets will usually open up with some sort of default JSON file where I'm going to see if I can get it to prompt. It looked like it was opening something that I had open from the last time. So it has this getting started file. Getting started with brackets, this is your guide. So it has general information. And then it has all of this information for how you can kind of personalize how it even is working directly in these files. That's something that I think is really helpful, that it gives you the option, but it's not necessarily something you want to play around with when you're new and you don't know what you're doing. So be careful. Don't mess with these files unless you feel confident in what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and do file open. And you'll notice it moved these getting started files out of the way. They're still there if needed, but right now it's just working with this. And I forgot to mention this in Sublime, but all of them in the bottom right, it'll say what kind of file it is. In this case, you organize your files on the left side. It doesn't put them as tabs in the top, but it's very similar. And we've got this option here for live preview. And then we've got an extension manager if you want to look for different extensions. So here it's doing a live preview connect. And there are extensions for there are extensions for doing something similar to this in Visual Studio Code. It's just not something I'm going to cover in these videos. So you'll notice we have Hello World. And then what I could do, and this is something I like to do a lot, is have them kind of split screen. So I could go in and I could say, I want another paragraph. Oh, I always type Hello World with the W there. So right now it's not making any changes, but if I do Control S or Command S, I'll save it and then it will automatically change here. So that's what this live preview does, is it automatically makes changes. This menu is going to be really similar to these other ones where you'll have help information, debug information, information on zooming, navigating your space, looking at the different themes, being able to find, replace information, edit it, do things with commenting, files, opening, saving, and then different preferences, which you'll notice like here's that brackets JSON file. So I think that's a little intimidating to work with. I'm gonna go ahead and close out this one, but I want to show you what I would do if I wasn't using brackets and I wanted to make a change. So we've got this demo file. I think I might still have it open. Yeah, so Usually I will go and find the original file wherever it's saved. I'll open that in my browser of choice, which I use Firefox a lot. So we've got this one. Now it doesn't have this update, so I just need to hit refresh. So now that I have this, I can delete this. And then I'm going to do Command or Control S to save it. And then you'll notice it doesn't have an automatic change, but all you need to do is just hit reload, refresh. The shortcut for that is Command or Control R. So I can do Command R, Control R. So if you're really good at keyboard commands, it goes just as quick as it does having that plugin for brackets. So it's one of those things where it is convenient, but the fact that you can do it in just as much time basically in any other text editor, I don't think it's necessarily worth it to worry about it a lot. I'm constantly going back and forth and just doing Control S, Control R, and being able to see my changes within seconds. All right, so before you start working on your homework, you're going to need to have one of these downloaded. It's up to you on which one you're going to download, but you're going to need to have one of them. And you know what? Let me actually just show you something real quick. So let's say that you have your file. I'm going to actually copy this over to here because I want to talk a little bit about your homework. So when you're working with your homework, you're going to want to organize things into folders like this where it says assignment 01. And you're going to have this file. This unzipped file you want to upload to your student server space. I'm going to cover that in another video where I'm going to talk just about FileZilla. But before you have the video on FileZilla, you're going to need to upload the files. Now, when you upload the files, it's going to prompt you to upload them all individually. And what happens is the file name will say something like Whitney Bandel, date it was turned in, all written out really, really, really long. And then at the very end, it will say demo.html. So it's going to add all of this other information about who you are and when you turned in the assignment in front of it. And so if you are linking between files and you're saying, I want to link to a file called demo, I want to link to a file called index, it's not going to link anymore. It's going to expect demo.html, but what's going to get turned in is going to be Whitney Bandel and then May 24, 2022, and then 2 p.m. 23, all this other information. So to help with that and to keep everything together, especially once you start having images that you're working with, you want to right click and then you're going to want to zip your file. So if you're on a Mac, it's going to be called compressing, and you're going to do compress assignment 01. If you're on a Windows computer, you're going to have this option of send to, and you're going to send it to, and you're going to zip the file. So here I have a zipped folder version. What tends to get confusing for people is if you try to upload this zip file to your student server space, or if you just try to open it and actually go to one of the files, it's going to look like it's broken and it's not actually linking. And if you do upload it to the student server, it's not going to link. When things are in the zip folder, they're not going to actually work and be able to link back and forth to each other. But it makes it way easier to send files. So when you're uploading to Canvas, you want to zip your file and then upload it. And then what happens on my end is I download the zipped file and then I unzip it. And you'll notice this was really easy. All I had to do was double click on it and then it opened it up and it unzipped it. When you're on a Windows computer, it might take an extra step of right clicking on it and clicking on extract all, and then it will extract it into a folder. But you'll notice I've got these copies now and they all have this demo file in it. So zipping, it makes your files compressed, it makes it easier to send as a smaller file, and it just groups everything all together. So it's really great to use. And let me see. I have directions Now, if you are on a newer Windows version, if you're on Windows 11, this will look a little different, but under week 1, I've got how to zip a file or folder in Windows 10, and then how to zip files in Mac OS 10. So it might be slightly off, but these directions should help you with zipping a file if you've never zipped one before. All right, so this is going to be working with your text editor. Make sure you download one. And next video, we're going to actually start talking about HTML and creating a basic template, etc. If you've got any questions, make sure that you either leave a comment in the discussion or you send me an email.